We're on live in Winchester at WinCam. My guest tonight is Dick Wagner. Now, Dick Wagner was on the show a couple of years back, maybe a year and a half ago, and he's got a brand new book called Only Women Bleed by Dick Wagner, Vignettes from the Heart of a Rock Musician. And we can call Dick right now and see what he's up to.
Hello?
Dick Wagner.
Yes.
Joe Viglione.
Hey, Joe, how you doing, man?
Good. I got to say, Susan Michelson was right. Your cell phone is very clear.
It's very good. Yeah, I do a lot of interviews on the cell phone.
My previous guest, Pastor Rosetta Swain, I had to have her call me from the landline.
Uh-huh.
But you have a new book out.
Happy to hear this is good.
Huh?
This is good, this phone.
Yeah, it's great. Congratulations on Not Only Women Bleed.
Well, thank you, Joe. I appreciate it.
It's like giving birth, isn't it?
3 years in the making.
And for a guitar player to change hats and do writing, I realize it's different.
It's different, but I've always written poetry and short stories and things. And songs, of course, so I guess you could call me a writer. That's what I do.
Well, you're more of a published writer than most because you've had hits that were published.
Well, that's true. I have had a few. Been very fortunate that my music is evidently compatible with some people's tastes. You know what I mean?
Now,
I've been a very fortunate man. I've been in the business a long time, and I've been writing for a long time. And this book was like an accident, really, because I was sitting down to write short stories, which I have all my life. And I started writing some stories based on some of my travails, and all of a sudden I was writing a book. In other words, I never planned to write a book. It just kind of happened. And I went on for a while, and I got to around 150 pages. And I was talking to my manager, Susan Michelson. She said, "You can't have a book that's 150 pages long. You know, that's not a book. That's a travelogue." So I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Why don't you write about this? Why don't you write about that?" And so I did, and little by little, working with her as my editor, we came out to like a 300-page book, and I was so happy, you know, because she had really stimulated me to do this and to continue on, because I was ready to stop. You know, so this is enough, and then she convinced me to go forward, and so we finished up with this particular book, which I'm quite proud of, and I'm proud of her for having had an insight into me that I had a lot more to say. And thus, Not Only Women Bleed.
Dick, back in 1999, I had Suzanne Vega on the show, folk singer and pop folk singer, if you will. And I said to her, her book was amazing because you could open to any page and just start reading. And lo and behold, you have done a similar thing, which I love because my mind being what it is, I don't like going start to finish. So it's like Quantum Leap. I can jump into any chapter and go to different years in the life of Dick Wagner.
Well, that's true. I mean, you can kind of plop down right in the middle of stories. Some of them are real unusual and really different, but some of them are kind of just an everyday look at life.
Well, rock and roll is unusual and different. It's really a different dimension.
when you're in it and, and practicing it and experiencing it every day, it's definitely a way of life that is not normal per se. You know what I'm saying? It's a real trip. I'm going to put it that way.
I'm looking at page 189 and the name Charlie McKenzie. Now, back in the day, Charlie used to manage Willie Loco Alexander. Willie was in the Velvet Underground.
Right.
So after Lou Reed left the Velvet Underground, Willie Alexander joined and finished up the tour. Charlie was the band Boston's manager and Willie's manager. I later went on to manage Willie, years later.
Oh.
Did Charlie manage you?
I managed him for a while. Yeah, he did for a while.
Wow.
He did for a while.
It would have been interesting, Dick Wagner in the band Boston.
Meltdown.
Huh?
I have a CD called Full Meltdown.
Yes.
Charlie was my manager during that. And actually the musicians were the guys from Boston, the band Meltdown.
Okay.
On the album Full Meltdown. Because it was really me and them. Started out with me producing a record for them.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
It started with that, and while we were in the studio, they only had a couple of songs. And I had a bunch of songs, and I said, well, you guys want to back my songs? And they said they were happy to do so. So we made a Dick Wagner album with the band Meltdown. And the tracks, the master tracks, somehow got out of my hands and ended up at Atlantic Records. And I had a contract with Atlantic Records, but it was over. So they didn't own them. Somehow they went there, but they didn't actually own them. I still owned the tracks. And so later on, this was 1979, okay?
Yep.
A couple of years ago, I get a call from what's the name of it? Rhino Records, okay?
Rhino, oh yeah, sure.
They have these tracks now, right? So I guess their pipeline was from Atlantic to Rhino Records for projects that they hadn't really released.
Right.
And didn't own, obviously. So they told me that they had these tracks and that they wanted to release them on a subsidiary label out there somewhere. And he sent me the tracks so that I could hear what he was talking about. And as soon as I started hearing these songs, I went, oh my God, those tracks are owned by me. So I told them at Rhino that those tracks were my tracks and that I did not want them released on a subsidiary label. I wanted them back for myself. So they gave them up and gave me back the tracks, and I decided to release the stuff myself. With the premise basically not of getting it out into the public by the way of a record label, but for me to be able to sell myself on the internet and at my gigs.
Now, Dick, Rhino Records, what would they have put the album out as? Dick Wagner?
I think so. I mean, I don't know what their plan was. I know they were talking about Wounded Bird, the label.
Oh, okay, so Wounded Bird is like Sundazed. Are you familiar with Sundazed?
No, not at all.
Sundazed Records up in Coxsackie, New York. They have Paul Revere and the Raiders, the entire catalog. They have the Velvet Underground singles. Believe it or not, they were singles from the Velvet Underground, which I find hard to believe, right?
Yeah, I knew that.
They had a collection of singles that they sell for hundreds of dollars. So they have these subsidiary labels, Wounded Bird and Sundazed. They're specialty labels. So it would have come out as a specialty thing, which wouldn't have been a bad thing because they have a database of fans that buy this particular niche product, if you will. You know?
Right.
But,
Right, I didn't know that much about them at the time, but I just felt protective of these tracks, especially since I had forgotten all about them.
Yep.
You know, when I heard the songs, I said, wow, I remember doing those sessions. And they were great. They turned out great. So I just claimed them because they did belong to me and decided to do it independently. And it's been good. You know, a lot of people love this record.
Now,
I might not have sold as many as I could have with Wounded Bird. I don't know. But it was just a personal choice that I wanted my own music. I wanted to own it.
well, of course, you could have sold a lot of Wounded Bird, but then you would have to be chasing the Wounded Bird maybe to find out an accounting. Who knows?
Well, of course, because that's the way it always works when you go to another label.
All due respect to Wounded Bird, all due respect to Rhino, all due respect to Sundays. It's just the nature of the beast.
The only respect is that they came from Atlantic, and Atlantic had them and gave them to Rhino, made a deal with some next belonged to me.
Well, I think
I get lost in the shuffle.
I think what happened, Dick, was Warner Electra Atlantic bought Rhino from the Foose brothers, who now have Shout Factory, a DVD label. So I think they turned Rhino into their archive project. So it's literally still Atlantic Records, just another division. And then they farm it out to Wounded Bird, which has nothing to do with them, outside of being an outside entity that licenses.
Right.
So I guess their job at...
It's in good hands, it's in my hands.
Yeah, there you go.
And the thing is that I recorded all that stuff, and I blame myself because how did I lose track of it? But it was 1979, and it was a little more hazy period of my life.
Understood.
And, and I'm a lot more clear today, so.
Now, Dick...
That CD at Flow Meltdown is included in my book.
I saw that.
I have a couple of CDs in this book. When you buy the book, get the CDs as a bonus.
And what is the In the Box by Skinner Rat?
In the Box is an album that I played guitar on and recorded and written and everything by my friend Dr. Gary Telchenhoff, who is the medical examiner for Las Vegas.
Oh.
He does autopsies in the day and records music at night. He's great, and it's just wonderful songs. Very bizarre, you know, almost Alice Cooper-ish.
Yeah, so if he's doing an autopsy on Janis Joplin and goes home and writes a song.
Yeah, or on anybody. I mean, the guy's a great writer, and I played guitar on the whole album, so I wanted to boost him up a little bit and include him in whatever happened with my book. And also I played some pretty good guitar on that record, too.
Now, Dick, when I was listening the other night to the Alice Cooper show, the live album you did, it said Dick Wagner, courtesy of Atlantic Records, even though it was on Warner Brothers.
Yeah, right. Is that?
So
I was on Atlantic at that time, I think.
How did you get signed to Atlantic Records? Oh, during the Alice Cooper Welcome to My Nightmare days?
Well, I was on the road with Alice, touring Australia, and I got a call from Bob Ezra, and he said Atlantic Records wants to sign you. So I thought about it, and I had already talked to Clive Davis about making a deal at Harris. But I got convinced to go with Bob and do a thing for Atlantic. So we cut an album, a really great album, I think, that they called Richard Wagner instead of Dick Wagner.
Right.
And so what happened was that album got released, but it ended up in the classical music bins at all these radio stations because it said Richard Wagner, so it was like Wagner, right?
Right.
They didn't know it was Dick Wagner, so it never got any real attention. But it's a great album, and but I don't know if that was the best move for me. I had an offer from Maris that maybe I should have taken it.
From Arista?
Association with Atlantic. And Arista I did nothing with, unfortunately.
Now, was there a demo that got you the deal with Atlantic?
They made a great record. I'm sorry, say that again, Joe.
Was there a demo that got you a deal with Atlantic Records?
Yeah, no, I don't think it was a demo, no. Because I came from Australia straight back to my house in Connecticut and sat down to piano and wrote that entire album in about a week and a half. So it was just direct offer of a deal, and I sit down, write the record, or record it. There was no time for a demo.
Interesting. So it was just Bob Ezrin talking to Atlantic that got you signed?
Exactly, yeah. Well, I had just come off the Welcome to My Nightmare, which Atlantic, they had that record.
Right.
It was supposed to have been on Warner Brothers, but some kind of deal got cut to get it onto Atlantic Records, which caused Warner Brothers to have ill feelings for Alice Cooper, and that he ended his contract there. Although we did write one last album for Warner Brothers, and it was called Dada. Are you aware of that album?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that was a farewell to Warner Brothers. And, but a great album. So I've been tossed around different ways. Sometimes by choice, sometimes by making me an offer that I couldn't refuse. So all in all, I've made a lot of records, and every one of them is a different circumstance. The only demo album that I ever remember recording and getting a deal for was Ursa Major on RCA.
Okay, so let's talk about the demo that got the deal for Ursa Major.
Yeah. I took the band into Cleveland, Ohio, and made the demo there. And took it to Bob, who wanted to get involved. And so Ezra and I ended up producing. I mean, he's credited producer, but all my arrangements and everything. So this really was like a co-production, to tell you the truth. And really an amazing album. Still holds up, and it's considered to be one of those seminal records that it definitely influenced the sort of hard rock, metal crossover point. It was 1972, and it turned out, it's such a beautiful record.
Dick, you're breaking up a bit on the cell phone. Maybe, would it be possible to call me back on Susan's?
I'm going to just move to a different point here in the house, because the reception here it changes when you move. So let me get to a point. Are you okay now?
Yeah, that's better. Okay. Yeah, because it got blurry, and our viewing audience, they just might tune out. It gets a little hazy. Yeah.
I'm sitting on the couch.
And we don't want Dr. Gil Markle to tune out either.
Well, speaking of the devil, Gil Markle and I just spoke. Gil Markle and I have done a project together. Just recently, I went to Italy and recorded a band there called the Mugshots. Terrific young band. I got really involved in writing with them and producing them and helping them with their image. And they're just about ready to be released onto the world. Great music. And Gil actually mastered the record. So our final mastering is done. It's all ready to go. And I think people would really enjoy the Mugshots. I have to thank Gil, for his work, what he's done on this record, and for all of the support he's given me over the years. Back when I used to work at his studio at the Longview Farm, You remember that probably.
I was out there with the late Jimmy Miller.
Okay, so you know that place.
Oh, yeah. I had Keith Richards' bedroom, and Jimmy had Mick Jagger's bedroom. Maybe I had Dick Wagner's bedroom. I don't know.
You might have. I had 2 or 3 beds.
All right, so you probably were in all of them.
Well, I was in different rooms at different times. That's correct. But mostly I was in the studio. But it was just a facility, the way I had it set up. A band could come into the farm and, spend 2 or 3 weeks, a month, or whatever. And it's like living at home, complete service, and then the studio right there, so you can work all day and night, have dinner served to you at midnight, sit in front of the fireplace and just, talk, which Phil and I used to do a lot. And then Gail got into mastering, and so we've always maintained a friendship and a relationship, and he did a marvelous job with the mugshots, and he also mastered that Full Meltdown album we were talking about, and did a great job on that. So Gil's been a real friend of mine, and I love the guy.
He's an amazing man. I had a lot of fun out at Longview. A lot of fun out at Longview.
Oh yeah, the game rooms and everything. You could ride horses. You could do anything.
It was a great environment to make a record.
It certainly was. It was 1979 when I was first out there and recorded with Gil, Longview, and with the band Meltdown from Boston. Not sure exactly what those guys are doing now, but if any of them are listening, please get a hold of me. I want to talk to you. That's all I can say about that. But
yeah.
Love that area. Always loved it out there.
How did you meet Bob Ezrin?
Well, I met Bob Ezrin when I had made that demo of Ursa Major. And he came to see me in New York. I was just starting to rehearse the music. And it was going to be, originally it was going to be me and Billy Joel and this drummer, Rick Van Gogh. But Billy and his wife had something going on. And so he left the band, moved to California, and became part of rock and roll history.
Okay.
And I kind of stayed there, put together the final Ursa Major, which included Greg Arama from the Amboy Dukes, Ted Nugent's band.
Oh yeah, Journey to the Center of the Mind.
Power Trio. Yeah, exactly.
What a great song.
We toured with Jeff Beck, and we toured with Alice Cooper. And then we went out and did a tour by ourselves. And at the end of that tour, the Ursa Major broke up. So it was one of those bands that made one record, but a very influential record, and ended up breaking up because you know how it's hard to keep bands together.
Now, did you get to play with Alice Cooper because of the Ezrin connection?
Somehow we got connected because of Dennis Arfa,
Okay.
who was my manager and later became Billy Joel's booking agent, and he also has one of the biggest, agencies in the country.
Right, you talk about him in the book.
Yeah, Rodney Dangerfield, all kinds of different people. But Dennis is he was a great friend of mine at that time, and I think it was really through his influence and his ability to sell me that got me on those tours. So I have a lot to owe to Dennis Arfa.
Now, I think...
A lot of people,
I'm not sure, but I think Bob Ezrin's first album was Mitch Ryder in Detroit.
Yes, I think so.
Recorded out in Cream Magazine's building, I believe, in Michigan. Like in the basement of Cream Magazine's The Legend.
That's great. That's probably true.
And the guitar player was Steve Hunter, the Deacon.
Right, it was Steve Hunter, right.
So when...
Before he and Steve and I got together and became like the dynamic duo.
Right. So what I'm saying here for the audience is that Dick Wagner's half of the great Dick Wagner Steve Hunter band. Whatever Happened to Dick and Steve is the name of a bootleg album, a Lou Reed bootleg.
Whatever Happened to Us?
Yeah, Whatever Happened to Dick and Steve is the name of a Lou Reed bootleg album.
Uh-huh.
Because the Lou Reed fans really loved Lou Reed with Dick Wagner and Steve Hunter. Lou might not have appreciated it at the time, but the fans adored what you guys did with Lou.
Yeah, they certainly did. We had a very successful run with Lou.
It was magic. It was one of those moments where it was the right band with the right artist. And you guys could just do your symphonic rock with this great legend singing his classic songs.
Mm-hmm.
And when you went on to Alice Cooper, it was, again, you and Steve reinterpreting classics by another band, although this band was more contemporary, early 70s, and then writing the new hits with the band, which would have happened for Lou, I'm sure. You know, had he...
Lou was pretty much a stickler for writing his own songs. But Alice and I became collaborators, and I started working with Alice and really creating all the... That was a 10-year relationship, basically, with Alice Hoople. And Lou Reed was, a whole year, maybe.
Right. What I'm trying to put into context for people...
Go ahead.
Was that Steve Hunter did this Mitch Ryder Detroit classic rock album with a Lou Reed song called Rock and Roll, and you did Ursa Major, so there was a common denominator here named Bob Ezrin.
Right, exactly.
So did Ezrin...
And you can read it in my book. In my book it talks about Bob Ezrin and the influence that he's had on my career. I owe a lot to him.
So I'm going to ask you some questions now about that Genesis.
Go ahead, ask away.
So when did you first meet Steve Hunter? Was it at the Lennox rehearsals?
It was at the Lennox rehearsals. Actually, before that, Mr. Major was playing at a bar in Fort Lauderdale for 2 weeks.
Okay.
And Steve walked in one night, and he was there with the Chambers brothers. He was touring with them. He walked in, and I invited him to go up on stage and jam with me. I had a couple of guitars that he did, and he and I, it was just magic from the very first time we played together.
Wow. And
it was really special. And that slowly developed into doing the Berlin album with Lou Reed, and going on tour with Lou Reed, coming back to New York and playing at the Brooklyn Academy of Music and recording live Rock and Roll Animal. And, subsequent from that, I took basically the same band, with the exception of the keyboard players, and moved them over to Alice Cooper when they had asked me to become Alice Cooper's co-writer and band leader, lead guitar. So what I did was just, instead of putting together a new band, I basically took that band from Lou Reed, which was so phenomenal, and just brought it to Alice Cooper, and the first thing we did was Welcome to My Nightmare.
Now,
there was a whole flow going on there in the 70s. It was very creative and very fortunate combination of musicians and producers. And it was a great period of time for me.
So, I'm trying to get it very, very straight. So after the Ursa Major album and after the Detroit album, you're in Florida for 2 weeks, and the Chambers brothers were in town, and Steve jumped on stage with you. You hadn't done the Berlin album yet.
No, the Berlin album came right after that.
Oh, now, so...
Ursa Major broke up.
Oh, Ursa Major broke up. So did Bob Ezrin call both you guys separately for Berlin?
Yeah.
And did you fly to England to do it there?
Right from the beginning, and they brought me in to do some parts, and so that was our first recording with Lou, and the first recording with Steve.
Now, did you play in New York or in London for the album?
Yeah. For the album, yes.
Was it London?
In London. I just recorded it in New York City.
Okay, New York.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because I think they did the basics in
I
London.
knew that Bob did some of the tracks in New York and some in London.
Right.
I didn't go to London. I was in New York City.
Got it. So then Lou was out touring with the Tots, and I see in your book that you were invited, and then the Tots maybe weren't very
The
diplomatic.
leader of the Tots was decided on his own that I was not right for Lou as a guitar player. And so they sent me home. I didn't pass the audition.
That's
Later, I get a call from Lou's manager, Dennis Katz, who happened to be the A&R guy at RCA who brought Ursa Major and signed Ursa Major. So it's kind of convoluted, all of that activity, but fortunately it all worked out. You know, you can get fired from one thing or refuse, turn around and do the same thing and be accepted. So I didn't make it with Lou Reed when it was the Tots, but I did when it was with me and Steve and the guys that would eventually become the Nightmare Band.
now.
It's kind of an interesting, you know, story there with all of that in the 1970s, which is all covered pretty well in my book.
Right.
And it's interested in part of the history of rock and roll in America. You know, it's a book to read.
Now, did you know Moogie Klingman?
I did.
Oh, you
Not
did.
well, but I did know it. Yeah.
Okay. You met him then?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Moogie was a friend of mine. We just lost him a couple of years ago.
Oh really? I didn't know.
Yeah, we just lost Moogie. It was maybe a year ago, not even. Terrible, because such a nice guy. Moogie,
A great guy. Very talented.
Moogie's partner was Buzzy Linhart. They wrote "You Got to Have Friends" for Bette Midler.
Yeah.
So this is a funny story you're going to enjoy. Both Buzzy and Moogie had played with Jimi Hendrix. Then Buzzy created the Utopia Band for his album Music.
Right.
Then Moogie took them with Todd Rundgren. They became Utopia. Lou Reed fired the Tots midstream and brought in basically half of Utopia, backed up Lou Reed to finish that tour before the Rock and Roll Animal Band.
Right.
Little known part of Lou history is that the Tots got fired, and Moogie
I didn't know that either.
Moogie and half of Utopia finished the tour.
No.
Then,
That's a great story.
yeah, so I thought you'd like that the Tots got fired after firing, not even hiring you.
I love that. Love that. They fired me, and then they got fired. I liked it.
And then they brought Moogie and Utopia in, and then it's interesting because you got this keyboard sound with Moogie for a couple of gigs, and then you've got this incredible Lennox band.
Right. Then the guitars come into play
Now,
in a major way.
I know Peter Walsh because he is in a swing band now, and I've reviewed their records. Pops Walsh from the original Rock and Roll Animal Band.
Right. He was the bass player. That's correct.
Yeah, so Pops did Lennox, and then he went and played Europe with you. Was he replaced on the tour in Europe or when you came back?
You know, I don't know. I'm trying to think.
Prakash
Peter
John.
Walsh on the Rock and Roll Animal, or is it Prakash? I remember Prakash.
Prakash is on Rock and Roll Animal, but Peter Walsh was the original bass player at Lennox. Peter
got replaced.
Right, by Prakash John.
Right, exactly.
Who I guess is part of the Whitey Glenn, and Whitey and...
They were all in the Mandala together. Remember the Mandala from Toronto?
Right.
Yeah, so it's very incestuous, but it's cool.
It is, because they actually backed up Buzzy Linhart in Canada for some Jack Douglas tapes.
Wow.
So, you know, it all goes full circle, right?
Very interesting how all this moves around, you know, during the 70s.
Sure, you didn't get in the Tots. Moogie replaced him, and then with Utopia, and then you're back controlling the Lou Reed band, and then
Right.
You've got Buzzy Linhart, who's partners with Moogie Klingman, playing with your band, the Rock and Roll Animal Band, up in the studio in Toronto. Dominic Troiano, I guess, had members of your band playing with him.
Yeah, Dominic played on my solo album for Atlantic.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Richard Wagner. Yeah, he played on that with me, and Steve Hunter played a couple things too.
Phenomenal guitar player, Dominic.
Most of the guitars on my solo album are me. But I had those guys come in because I just liked them, and I liked the way they play, and they provided some good background stuff for my album. Very happy.
Dominic was a unique guitar player, very different style.
He was. Yeah, he definitely was. He was a great player.
We were talking years ago, and you and Steve Hunter reunited and did some gigs in some club in Michigan.
Yeah, we did, up in Saginaw. Steve came from L.A. to visit me and maybe do some writing, because we were thinking about doing a Hunter and Wagner album. And we just never had the time to finish it out. But I put together a couple of gigs up there for he and I to play. And so we had Hunter Wagner at a couple of clubs in Saginaw, Michigan, live and in person. It was beautiful. I've got tapes of that stuff.
Oh, maybe someday you should put out the live Hunter Wagner.
Well, I could, I guess. It's basically cassettes.
Oh, the fans love it,
I have to have a digitized, and I've got that material that I could actually put out. I've also got some recordings from my band in New York City in the 80s at the China Club. So there's some historic kind of stuff going on there too.
Was that the Dick Wagner band?
That was the Dick Wagner band, yeah. And I might put it out. I haven't really thought that hard about it, but the tapes are there. So if the folks will here because of your show and they want my China Club tapes, they can have them. Put it out. But I got to hear from Joe Biggs people.
All right, there you go. Do you ever go to Wolfgang's Vault on the web?
I do. I have. I've gotten a couple of the Louis things, some other stuff too, but I have gone there. I don't do it regularly.
Well, Alan Bershaw writes all the liners to them. And so Alan's come on board to help me finish this book on your tour that I've been writing for 15 years. So we're going to have it finished by January. And so...
Or the next decade, right?
Right. Well, I'm juggling so much, but it's got to be done. We're knee-deep in it.
15 years is a long time though, Joe.
We're knee-deep in it, and we're pretty excited. It's coming to a conclusion, finally. And Alan had some questions. How familiar were you with the Velvet Underground's music and Lou's early solo work at the time?
Not at all.
Interesting.
I heard the Velvet Underground way back in the 60s.
Yep.
I did not get totally into them, and I never really knew any of the songs. So with Lou up at Tanglewood, I think it was.
Yep.
We were having rehearsals, and he teaching us some of his songs. That's the first time I heard most of them. I just did the arrangements,
And what was your first encounter with Lou like?
Those were my arrangements then.
Oh, those are brilliant arrangements.
Yeah. Thank you.
I only had one criticism at 19, and I'll still bring it up today. I thought that maybe the version of Rock and Roll from Bob Ezrin's Mitch Ryder album would have been a fun way to jolt the audience.
Yeah, maybe so, because that's a good version of it.
And Lou really liked it.
He played with the Rock and Roll Animal Band. It's pretty damn good, though.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It sings. It sizzles. It rocks.
And it flies. It just moves right along. It's great.
What was your first encounter with Lou like?
We always played great stuff.
Oh yeah.
First concert with the Rock and Roll Animal Band.
Oh, it was amazing. I was there.
Oh, you were there. Okay, cool. Yeah, you remember that. It was a fantastic game.
I met you that night. You know, I met you because I was playing the tape I made of the concert, and you made me promise on the spot not to put it out, and I shook your hand, and I never put it out. Yeah, I never traded it, and it never got out, you know?
You still have it?
Dinky Dawson has it now, you know?
I just saw him last year.
I know, he told me. We're going to surprise you guys. So,
What's that?
we're going to surprise you guys with the tapes. Because Dinky did a soundboard, okay?
Right.
So in 2000, Lou Reed put me on the guest list at a Boston show, and I brought Dinky and his wife. So I was the only guest Lou Reed had on the guest list, which was, I was honored, you know? And we went backstage, and Lou gave Dinky a big hug, and Dinky put the cassette in Lou's pocket. But, so Lou has heard Dinky's version, then there's my tape, and Dinky's going to try to put them together, and if he can, we'll have this amazing tape, you know?
Well, that will be something if you can get that stuff synced up. That will be great, without a doubt.
You shook my hand.
Good luck with that, and I would sure love to hear it.
Oh yeah, you will eventually, but we got to make it. We got to tune it up to perfection, you know. So a little more patience. But it was 39 years ago. It's 39 years ago next Saturday, September 1st.
Wouldn't that be perfect to hear that?
So in honor of your gig, I'm playing out September 1st, and I'm going to do Heroin on a folk guitar.
Oh, wow.
I never play out, Dick, so I'm going to play out next Saturday night, a week from Saturday, and I'm going to do Heroin in honor, not the drug people. I've never touched. Heroin ruined me, and I never took any. There. That's the title of my book. But I'm going to do the song Heroin that Dick Wagner played with Lou Reed, and in memory of the concert 39 years ago, September 1st at Tanglewood.
Well, that is fantastic.
That'll be fun. I'll send you a video of that. You can laugh at me.
Okay, I will. I'll laugh very hard.
How would you describe...
That would be perfect if we could do that.
So we met 39 years ago, Dick. That was the night we met. You met the mad fan outside, and Penty Glenn had given me the Lou Reed little sticker, so I put it on my hat, and you met me in the parking lot. So we've known each other 39 years, give or take a decade.
Absolutely. It'll be 40, and then it'll be 41 and 42 until the end, you know. So you're a good man. You're a good man, Joe.
And your book is great.
You have a lot of support.
Oh.
A lot of support over the years, and I really appreciate that.
Well, it was a joy reviewing your Frost records for All Music. It was just a joy reviewing those beautiful records. The Frost albums are really special.
I think they are too. I think they certainly could have been recorded better, but that was then, and this is now. Everything, the equipment, everything is different. So you can't expect the exact same kind of sound.
Right.
But, you know, they mean an awful lot to me. Obviously, that was the point in time for me where my writing started to become more majestic and more inventive, and playing live with the band. It rocked so hard. That band was so great.
Now, I interviewed a big fan of yours about a month ago. My second interview with him, Mark Farner.
Oh, yeah, Mark, are you kidding? Mark was in my band, the Bossman, last year we were together. And Mark used to come up to my house and learn about songwriting from me. He was 15 at that time. So I was kind of his mentor for a while. And the obvious success he's had, you know, I'm so proud of him.
Well, he's better than ever, and he's managed by a Boston woman now. Joanne Cody had a band called Extreme. They hit #1 with More Than Words. She was their original manager, and she's handling Mark now, and she's really smart. So it was a great show here in Boston. He's coming back in October.
Yeah, I just saw him last month. We did a benefit for Scott Morgan of the Rationals. him raise some money. He doesn't have any health insurance, and he has to have a lung transplant, liver transplant, rather. So we're trying to raise some money for him, and we had a big crowd. Mark Farner, and it was me, and several other people. It was a great concert. It was just lovely. So Mark kind of grew up around me, and I brought him into my band, and he could always steal the show, that voice.
The voice and the stage presence, he really is a showman.
Yes, he is, indeed.
The Boston concert, I got to say, he's like fine wine. He put on an incredible show. It's up on YouTube. People just took their cameras, You can see all these shows now on YouTube because people just upload them.
Right.
But it was a terrific show. He's a gentleman, and it was a lot of fun interviewing him again.
I bet it was.
You know what I love in your book? In your book, you've got No Wonder I Have a Studio Tan. You have all your album covers on a page. Well, not all. You can't have all, but some select album covers. Did you write a song on Welcome to My Nightmare too?
I did. I wrote the ballad, Something to Remember Me By. If you haven't heard it, you got to take a listen to it.
Yeah, I have the CD. I got it from uni, and I have to review it. So I will listen to that carefully.
Thank you. I hope you like it, and I'm going to give it a good review.
It's a fun album. It's nice to have the bookends, part 1 and part 2. I wish more artists would do that.
Well, Alice and Bob, they worked well together, so it came out to be a really great album. Unfortunately, I have music on there, so it makes me happy.
Dick, we'd love to see you in Boston sometime. I know Dinky would love to see you. I know Alan Bershaw would love to see you. I know you have a lot of fans here in this area.
Well, I want to play up in that area. I want to get some kind of dates going.
Do you have a band?
And oh yeah, I do. I have a new band. It's a fantastic band.
We got some great venues here.
Gigs. Yeah, you do. Boston's always been a great marketplace.
Well, we're thinking of bringing Mark Farner to town in October. Maybe Mark Farner and Dick Wagner on a bill.
Perfect.
It would be, wouldn't it? Because you guys would jam.
Yeah, that would be perfect. Yeah, Mark and I would definitely do some stuff together.
I'm going to send Susan Mark Farner's manager's email, and let's correspond, because I would love to see this happen.
All right, that sounds great. Speak about bright managers, women managers.
Yeah.
I happen to have one who is brilliant and just a wonderful person. Susie is what I'm talking about.
Susan Michelson, we thank her very much. We've only got like another minute left, but I'd love to have you in the studio. We got to bring you to town because I got to have you in the studio. We got to talk for a few hours, Dick.
All right, let's do that. If you can work that thing out, Mark Farner and Dick Wagner date up there.
I'm going to try. I can make no promises, but I will try my hardest. You know that. So, Dick Wagner, it's an honor to have you on again. Congratulations with the book. It's awesome. Not only Women Bleed, and let's talk again soon.
All right, Joe.
All right, Dick.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good night. The great Dick Wagner. Not only Women Bleed, on Desert Dreams Books. It's just, I love Lou Reed and Alice Cooper. What can I say? I met him in the parking lot 39 years ago. He made me promise not to trade my tape, and I didn't. And my tape is now with his good friend Dinky Dawson, who engineered the whole Lou Reed tour. You can hear the stuff free up on wolfgangsvault.com. Just Google it. And you can hear Dick Wagner and Steve Hunter. It's just absolutely free to hear the whole tour. Not the whole tour, but a lot of the gigs. I do it. It's just amazing. You could get lost with all this stuff. It's time to talk about Hercules. And I'm going to say the views and opinions on visual radio are those of the host and his guests. That would be me. And not necessarily those of Winchester Community Access and Media and our affiliate stations all over the place. Boston, Cambridge, Somerville, Stoneham, Burlington, Hudson, Wakefield, Winthrop. We're on all over Critic. I got to go to Winthrop. I got to go to Winthrop and talk to Joanne, the manager of Mark Fauner, because she wants to see the Winthrop TV station. I hope I got Frank's right number. We're going to find out. We're going to find out. We have a couple of numbers here. Visual radio, we're going to talk about Hercules. And I don't think that's the right number, so we'll try the other number. Visual radio here talking about the movie tomorrow night, 9 o'clock, is Hercules. And it's not the Moon Men, but one of the Hercules movies.
Frank Telestria talking about movies.
Hey, Frank, I wasn't sure which number, sorry.
Okay, are we out of time?
No, we got time. We got 4 minutes.
Okay. Tomorrow night's movie is Hercules Unchained, made in 1959. It hit the U.S. shores in the summer of 1960 when I saw it, and I can't tell you the excitement at the kids' matinee when the coming attraction came on, telling us that next week would be another Steve Reeves movie. Steve Reeves was a big star of our generation at the Saturday matinees, and the place was always packed when there was a Steve Reeves movie there. And he was Steve Hercules Reeves, but he only made 2 films as Hercules, and then Hercules Unchained. So this is actually his last performance as Hercules. And this movie, believe it or not, has affected how movies are marketed today. Because you may be old enough to remember, Joe. I don't know if you do. That in the old days, movies would come out in the big cities, and it would seem to take forever for them to get to the cities, the suburbs,
right?
And from the suburbs to the rural. Okay, and that was because they made relatively few prints. There just weren't any movies to go around. And Joseph Levine, who was the distributor entrepreneur who brought these movies to America and probably had them dubbed, made an unheard of 600 prints for this. And, you know, in those days, there was, probably about 6,000 theaters in America. So there was an incredible number of prints for this movie. And it was saturation sufficient. And it all, that first weekend, create the buzz, take your money and go home. And that's basically what we do today. I mean, when a big movie opens now, they'll say it's opening on 2,000 screens, or opening on 3,000 screens. And in fact, that just didn't happen back in those days, and this is one of the movies that broke the ice. And so Levine's marketing, this became a big hit, and
Hello? We lost Frank. He's on a cell phone in New Orleans. Hello? And let's see if we can get him back.
You have reached the Sprint.
Well, people, we've got a minute and a half left, and Frank Delestrito's in the wilds of New Orleans, but Hercules Unchained is our movie for August 24th at 9 p.m. here at wincam.org. You can watch it online at wincam.org. You can get some sneak previews on YouTube. See if you want to sit down and watch the whole movie, which you will. Steve Reeves is on it. And hello, welcome to Visual Radio.
It's Frank again. I'm in the car just outside New Orleans, so maybe we passed from one fish to another. I don't know. Are we out of time?
1 minute.
Okay. There's a couple of villains in this. 2 of them have cancer. The villainess, the evil sorceress, is played by Sylvia Lopez, and she will be dead within a year of making this movie of leukemia, and she was only 27.
Oh.
And maybe her health explains why she has so much makeup on. She looks like a drag queen almost, and I gotta say, in 1960, she's supposed to be a sexy siren. She was kind of scary looking. She almost looked like a transvestite.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much, Frank. Enjoy New Orleans.
I'll talk to you next week.
And how Hercules meets the moon then next week.
Okay.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's our show, people. Thanks.
Plans and executes the decision.